Hello, my name is Lakin and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you how I read more books. How I've gone from reading an average of 4 books a month to now averaging around 20 books a month. So yeah, stick around if you want to hear some of my tips. Disclaimer. Obviously, you do not need to read a lot of books to be considered a reader. If you've read a book, you're a reader. I know it can be a little discouraging at times when you see booktubers and bookstagrammers with like 20 plus book wrap-ups and you're wondering, even I feel it sometimes like, oh wow, I didn't read a lot because this person read this many books and I only read this many books. And the comparisons, I know it's easier said than done, but don't feel bad. Just because you didn't read as much as them doesn't mean you're not doing a good job reading, because that's ridiculous. So this is not me saying you need to read a lot of books. This is just a way that helps me look at my TBR of books I want to read and read it throughout the whole month and divide it up to where it's not stressful. And it's just a fun thing that I do, and yeah, it's just, so hopefully these tips and tricks, you can kind of adapt them to whatever books you're reading, however many books you're reading, and stuff like that. So, before we get into like the nitty gritty, a few tips that I have are figure out your formats. What format do you enjoy the most? What format do you consume the fastest? What format's the easiest for you to obtain? Because for me, I don't buy the books. If I was to buy every single book that I was reading, I will probably have read only 10 books this year. So, yeah. I'm not here saying you need to buy a whole bunch of books because that's not what I do. I am so grateful to have a library that has tons of resources, and I know the struggle of not having a library or having a super small library that doesn't really have any resources. I've been in both situations, and thankfully now I don't have to be in that situation, but yeah, you just need to figure out how you're going to be able to obtain these books and what books you want to look for. So I use the library, and my library has Libby and Hoopla, and so those are the 3 things that I use. And my preferred form of consuming books is audiobooks. I'm able to put them on 2 times speed and do other things. Now that's not with every book, but majority of the books I can do that. And so it just helps me. So, but I know some people love and read physical books super fast. I don't read physical books super fast. So kind of use those things that you know about yourself to dictate your reading more. Because if you put a whole bunch of books in a format that you don't read really fast and that you can't consume a whole lot of, and you put like 20 books from that format, it's not going to work out. Like for me, last month, I had a lot of books I wanted to read, and they ended up only being in physical form or ebook form. And I just don't read those very fast. I was trying to cram the same number of books I had read the month before, with like 11 of them being audiobooks and only 5 being physical, with that number pretty much switched. And it didn't work out at all. So yeah, just keep your limit of what you can do, like how far you can push yourself in mind. Because this isn't about being stressed. This isn't about reading more than you can handle. Unless you want to be reading 24/7, go for it. I don't want to be reading for 24/7. I want to be able to do other things as well. while still reading the amount of books that I want to read. Another tip would be have a TBR. Plan your TBR for the month so that way you don't have decision fatigue. Because once I finish a book, I know which book I'm picking up next. Now that can change here and there because if I'm not in the mood to read a book, I'll swap it out. But I tried to limit the books I'm reading to the TBR and pick from there instead of picking from my Goodreads TBR that has 200, 300 books on it. Because that's gonna, if I pick from that TBR every single time, I'm gonna get stressed out and I'm gonna get to where it's like overwhelming. But if it's just 20 books, it's a little bit easier to pick from that. So now I guess it's down to the actual how I read more books. And this is very planner oriented. So if you're not a planner, this may not work for you, but it works for me. So I pick all the books that I want to read for the month and stick them on my TBR. I divide my TBR in between readathons that I'm participating in and the books I want to read for that, book clubs I'm participating in for the month and the books I need to read for those, just random books I want to read for the month, and then also because I'm using the library and there's holds sometimes, I'll put the books that are close to being off the hold and available for me to read where they could pop up in this month, but they could not. And so it's kind of like I may read it this month, I may not. I don't know when I'm really getting it. So those are the 4 categories I kind of put the books in. Once I get those books, I figure out what format I'm going to be reading them in. So am I doing an audiobook, an ebook, a physical book? And if so, how many hours is the audiobook? And I write that down. If it's a physical book, how many pages are in the physical book? The same with the ebook. The ebook and the physical book, I kind of keep the same, even though the format may make it a little bit longer or shorter, but yeah, it's just easier to find the page count for the physical instead of page counts for the ebook, since the ebook can change. But I find those out and I write them down for every single book. And then once I have the books and the amount of time it'll take to consume that book, I move to a calendar. And I mark out the dates of which my readathon is. So the week of the readathon, I mark that out. And the times when I need to be reading reading my book club books, like the date I need to read those by, I mark those out as well. And those are my first priorities. So I fill in those times of when I need to read those books first. And how I do that is, if it's a week-long readathon, I have 7 days to read these books. So if there's a 2-hour audiobook, I know I can listen to that in a day. So I'll just have that on one day. Have the audiobook, and then say for this readathon, I have 3 audiobooks and 2 physical books. So 5 books in total for 7 days. I will see how long each audiobook is and divide up how long I think it will take me to listen to those. I can listen to audiobooks pretty fast, so I usually stick to around 3 to 6 hours per day for audiobooks. And I just divide the audiobooks accordingly, and I stick, so say one book is 12 hours long. I can either divide it by into 2 days, 6 hours each, or I can divide it into 4 days with 3 hours each. So whichever one I want. And the same with the physical books. I see how many pages there are, and if it's a 200-page book, I'll try to squeeze it into a shorter amount of time. Or if it's a longer book, I'll have it reading for the whole 7 days, as long as I can. Because I'm trying to aim for around 50 pages a day per book. Because sometimes I do need to read 2 physical books in a day, and that sort of hits my limit. I know my average is I don't usually hit 100 pages per book each day, or 100 pages a day. I just don't do that. So, yeah. I tried to keep it to where it's just 1 audiobook and 1 physical book each day, but sometimes I have to stack up 2 physical books each day, or 2 audiobooks, and I just kind of fiddle around with that. And I basically do that for everything else. I put my book club books in there first to when I'm reading those. I figure out when I'm getting it from the library, and usually when the date is, or even when I need to return it from the library, and I just stretch it out or cram it in as small as I can into the spots that I need. And once I have the book clubs and the readathons, that's when I put in the other books. And the hopefuls, I don't put in onto the list at all. If I get to those, I get to them. If I don't really put those calculations. I hope this is all making sense. I'll probably have something on the side to where you can kind of see me working it out, and that'll probably be better, because I'm more of a physical, learner, learning with my eyes than I am learning through people talking, so hopefully that'll help explain what I'm trying to explain. But, yeah, I do that. But, so that way I kind of have a plan each day for what I'm reading. When it comes to the day-to-day, how I read. Because oftentimes I fall behind, specifically on the physical books, because I lose track of time. So I try to set down a specific time to read. Doesn't always happen, but probably a good idea to do. So what I normally do is, say I have 100 pages to read in that day. Or this book is due at the library and I haven't picked it up at all, so I have this whole book to read in a day. Let's take this book for example. Darker Shade of Magic by V. Schwab. This is one of the books I'm going to be reading this month. So this book has 398 pages. And I have it divided right now to where I'm reading 42 pages a day. So, but say I fall behind a few days and I need to catch up. And I need to read 100 pages. So usually for that, if I'm falling behind, it stresses me out and I don't want to read. So to kind of lower the stakes of how many pages I need to read, I divide it. And so I may watch a 20-minute YouTube video. Or I may play with my pets for 30 minutes, or do some chores for 15. However long that I'm doing something else, I will, for each minute that I'm doing that other thing, afterwards, I'll then read that many number of pages. So, watch a 20-minute YouTube video, read 20 pages of the book. And then I can watch another 20-minute YouTube video, or a 30-minute YouTube video, or just a TV show. I try not to watch anything longer than 45 minutes, because if I watch a movie, then that's just a lot of pages to read. So I try to keep it under 45 minutes. And I just keep going back and forth between other things I want to do and the book I'm reading till it's done. And if it's an all-day affair where I need to read 398 pages in a day, I'll then divide it by the hour. And each hour on the dot, I will read for 30 minutes. However far I get within those 30 minutes, that's how far I get. And then for the next 30 minutes, I do other things. And then once the next hour hits, I repeat the cycle until the book is done. Those are my tips of how I read physical books. When I would probably much rather just be listening to it and doing something else. But for audiobooks, I listen to audiobooks constantly. I don't listen to a lot of music. I usually only listen to music when I'm in the shower, but other times when I'm doing chores, when I'm doing something creative, when I'm taking care of my pets or whatever, I'm listening to the audiobook. Because it's just nice to have something going in the background that I can pay attention to and the house isn't super quiet. So, yeah, not really much insight for audiobooks to read those more, but yeah, those are pretty much all the tips and tricks that I do to read more. It just feels good to tick off the books and to see that, especially in like lower mental health days or weeks or months, however long it is, it's nice to see that even though I may not be completing all these other tasks, I'm accomplishing something in my head by finishing books. So it's a nice mood booster there. If you have any ways that you read more, like tips and tricks that you do that are different than mine, leave them down in the comments, because I'm always looking for ways to like help boost my reading, and to where I'm just kind of, my goal is to read more and stress about it less, because reading's supposed to be fun. So hopefully you can take these tips and tricks and adapt them to your own reading habits, to where you can make your own way of reading more, and hopefully it boosts your numbers up if you want to read more, you know? I feel like I'm just talking in circles now, so thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. It makes my day. I hope you're having a great morning or evening whenever you're watching this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!